Let's do this.
Trying to find our
Should be a good one. I started it a little bit early as usual, so we can make sure the sound is good, and hopefully by the French Open we'll have another laptop. We do have the internet going. We just haven't got the laptop yet, so we're still using the cell phone. But that's going to change here recently, or soon rather.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're good to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is going to be a fun one, something we chatted about just the past couple of days. And we have now had our third rainy day in a row. Let me kick that light on next to you. But yeah, oh, you have it. Can you get it?
Oh,
Yeah. There we go. All right.
What's up, Gene?
So our third rainy day in a row, and believe me, our job, our career is teaching tennis.
I'd rather be at the tennis.
But we don't consider it work. It's work staying here in the rain and stringing rackets all the time. All right, here we go. So what we're going to do today is, as usual, welcome everybody to another 5K tennis discussion. Today is Friday, February the 4th. We are going to do something called Have Fun or Freaked Out Friday.
And the matches are canceled.
Oh, the school matches?
Yeah.
All right, so for those of you on the Bryant tennis team, our afternoon matches, our tournament has been canceled. So what we're going to do is we are going to talk about some of the most interesting, some of the most shocking, some of the most maybe fun, some of the most maybe not fun things that have happened with us, both on and off the tennis court, as well as your comments or your most freaked out things. And we did this spur of the moment, so a lot of you will watch this later. If you miss it live, then if you leave your events and comments, then we'll read some of them on the next show, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do this in no particular order, and we'll start with Carla in no particular order.
Let's start with you. I want to hear your story first.
What, one of my most freaked out events?
Yes.
All right, that's pretty easy for me. There's a lot of them. I have a couple pages of them, but the one that stands out to me the most is when I ruptured my patellar tendon playing in a match, and then when I came down from the fall, my leg snapped and I landed on my right arm, breaking my wrist, both the radius and ulna at the wrist area. That was probably my most significant one in terms of recent memory, right?
Yeah.
So how that happened is I was playing Carla in a tennis match, and we get pretty competitive. And I wasn't in that great of a mood that day. I was kind of upset anyway. It was early. Both of my knees hurt as usual. And we got into a match, and I was down a match point, and there was some people watching. So I told myself I was going to chip and charge. So I was receiving serve. And I had nothing to lose at that point, so she served me the ball. I chipped it. And I thought it was a pretty good location, and I came charging in behind it. She got to the ball and I guess fought fire with fire and chipped up a lob over my head. And I knew if I didn't jump and get it, that it was going to go in. I knew that. So long story short, I jumped up and swung and completely missed the ball. I looked down and I jumped higher than I thought I was, and I came down and my leg snapped. So I ruptured my patellar tendon. And then completing the fall, I broke my right arm or wrist. If you don't know what that injury is, it's a pretty gnarly one. So the tendon that connects the femur to the tibia was completely severed. So it took like about 6 months, right? So 6 months at least just to be able to walk again. And then still to this very day, which is about 18 months later, still working on getting the quad muscle back in the right leg. But that was a pretty nasty event, major surgery, a couple days in the hospital. I got carried off the court. Pretty interesting.
That was really, that was a gruesome injury. It kind of shows you, though, that sometimes there's signs in life, something trying to tell you, hey, maybe you shouldn't. He was upset that day that he was not feeling too well.
For like a lot of days in a row.
A lot, but that specifically that day, he didn't feel quite right, but he felt like if he didn't push himself, that he would not, he would not get through it. And I kept telling him, hey, maybe today's not a good day for you to play. Maybe you should stop. I kept telling him that you should stop. And I was right.
Yeah, definitely should have stopped. And, and especially at match point. Yeah, it was one of those events where it was like, okay, you're 44, you have 5 kids, Maybe it's about time that you slow it down a little bit. Anyway, that was one of mine. Okay,
let me say one of Jean's. Jean says, one of my most freaked out things when I watched my grandmother die in front of my eyes, and we couldn't help her because she was basically helpless. I still get nightmares every day.
I think Gene and you and I were communicating when this occurred. I think it was right during the COVID stuff. I think COVID, the lockdown. I think we were all in it, or sometime in that time frame.
Yes.
Definitely can't empathize with the relative to, in other words, aunt or whatever. But I've been there around family members, and that's a tough thing to overcome. As you age, there will be more of that. It's part of the human time frame, so it's something we'll always deal with. Forever. But yes, it's always significant to go through something like that.
Speaking about your injury, you said that was like one of the most freaked out or odd things that's happened to you. We've also had good moments with that. I remember we were really, really down. I wrote it down here. We were really, really down about you having to get surgery. We couldn't afford it. And one of our viewers contacted us.
Rahesh Kumar,
and
yeah.
Even though him and I disagree about Djokovic a lot, we have a lot to thank Rahesh, because if it wasn't for Rahesh pushing us to get on the channel and tell our story and have people help us, he's the one that did a big donation for Justin to get an MRI.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for him, none of that would have started. I felt like once he started that, encouraged us, pretty much everything kept falling into place, and we met people that we never knew. We met them that were willing to help us, heard about the story, and help Justin get his surgery.
Yeah, and that was an interesting time, yes, because we had a restaurant for a while, and we left that to begin coaching full time. I was always in business, and Carla would coach, and I would do it kind of intermittently, at least in the recent past. And so we were both without insurance when it happened. Totally crazy. And that's been obviously rectified, but Rahesh Kumar, yes, just being at that point, for the most part, a stranger, because of the love of the game, he saw the story and helped me get that MRI, which was absolutely imperative.
He's the one that pushed
to get my surgery.
Said, you guys need to do this. He's like, you need to do this. He's like, if people really care, they'll help you. He's like, I'm guarantee you there'll be people out there willing to help you, and it happened. So that's a good moment. Something that happened bad, good moment, because it changed our mood. I was able to coach while you were down and move on with life.
Exactly.
I guess I'll start with one of my freaked out. I was in Honduras with my brother. I think I was like 10 or 12 years old, and my dad decided to take a drive all the way from New York to Central America, Honduras. My mom was taking a plane. Anyways, we were there on vacation for a couple of weeks. We were staying with family. My brother and I were about to go buy some candy or chips, junk that, all little kids eat. And we were about to cross the street from where we were staying. The store was across the street. And we decided not to cross the street because my cousin, our second cousin or something, we were waiting for her. So we decided to wait for her. Well, as we decided to wait for her, in a split second, it happened. There was a car that was coming down the road really fast. And in Honduras, there's little hills, so there's bumps. You go up. Well, this car was going so fast, it hit the bump, and then it flipped and landed, crashed. And then we heard a lady crying in the car. My brother and I looked at each other, because had we crossed the street and not waited for our second cousin, we would have died. We would have definitely got hit by the car. And I guess it was shocking. Him and I were little. We just looked at each other like, did that really happen? So that was a freaked out moment for us. Poor lady, we couldn't help her. We weren't allowed to touch her. In third world countries, you have to wait for ambulance.
You have to do the same here.
She was just moaning, and I think that was another freaky moment for us being so young to see that in front of us, like death right in front of us. And it could have been us. So it just tells you decisions that you make, split seconds decisions could change your whole life.
Yeah, how fragile and instantaneous life can cease to exist very, very, very quickly, right?
Yes.
Reminds me, when I was in college, we had a house. It was myself and three other roommates. There was four of us. And we built a rope swing in the backyard. And our backyard was trees and concrete. There was no water. We put this rope swing way up in the tree, Myself, I'm a pretty light guy, so I went up there and swung off of it, and it really wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was freaked out looking back at it, but I noticed when I came down, I was swinging kind of near a tree. So we climb up in the tree, someone would throw you the rope, and then you would swing, and it was tied onto a tree. So when I would swing back and forth until I stopped, I came really close to this big oak tree. So, but made it. So I got down, and one of my roommates was like, "I'm gonna do that," and I was like, "Okay." You're a lot bigger than me. I was like 150. He's like 230. I'm like 6'1". He's like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". And I told him, I said, "Dude, make sure you jump out because I came really close to that oak tree, and at that speed, there's no way anyone's gonna block you. Be careful." He was like, "I got it." So he climbed up the tree. We hoisted him up the rope swing. He came down, woo, and he on his way down he missed the tree by like a foot. On the way back down, he missed it by like an inch, and he's still going at a high rate of speed and way up there. He knew he was going to hit it. So on his way down, he saw the tree coming. There's nothing we could do, and he bailed off the rope swing instead of hitting the tree, which was very, very smart because he would have been paralyzed. He would have been snapped in half. He flew off the tree onto the ground, and you heard what sounded like sticks break, snap, snap. Um, we had an idea that something broke, but we were thinking the tree or something. So he kind of rolls around for a minute, gets up, and he's in shock, and he doesn't realize that both of his arms are snapped in half, like hanging there. I saw that, and I passed out. Boom. So about 30 minutes later, I woke up, and I was in a car coming around as I passed out by the grotesqueness of his arms, and he was in the emergency room, or we had just gotten there getting his arms repaired. So how quickly things can change if you don't have your thinking caps on. I guess in your situation, it was totally random.
It was random. Had we not waited for her, we would have been dead. Jack says, the worst day of my life was attending a funeral of a teammate who died by suicide. Just died last year, just 27.
Oh,
Harrowing day.
Yeah, God bless for
you know,
that.
that is tough, especially when someone commits suicide. You question yourself, what could I have done to help this person?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why did they do it? Those are always tough situations when someone takes their life away. You know.
Yeah. Alas, numerous people that I have known that has occurred. As I have an uncle that it occurred to.
My aunt's did that too.
Yeah, so it's some people talk about doing that, and then the ones that usually end up doing that, you'll never know it.
Yes, I did hear about Miss USA.
Yes, heard about that.
One of my favorite actors as a child, Jonathan Brandis. I love that guy. I had a huge crush. I would put posters of him, and I was supposed to meet him too. We were supposed to go to this tennis event when I was training and playing challengers, and my coach said, "No, you're not ready for it. I don't want you embarrassing yourself. I want you to be ready." Because I was going to be one of the, how they bring out the pros to play little matches and stuff. And he's like, "I feel like you're not ready." And I knew that was my chance to meet Jonathan Brandis, and probably my only chance. And he was dating one of the girls from Prince of Bel-Air. She's a pretty girl. I forgot her name, Tatiana or something like that. They were dating at that time. And a year later, he killed himself. He was only 27.
Tragic.
Left no note, nothing.
Tragic.
Nothing. So suicides are really tough.
Abound.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Ben Fricker says it happened on Christmas just last year when I found a person facing down in the water, unconscious.
Ooh.
He slipped and fell down off the rocks and must have hit his head on the way in. It was a scary situation for me.
And the person survive?
No, he didn't say.
Yeah. To see another lifeless person in front of you go through a traumatic event, and it's serious. It's humbling. It's there's no words to it. There's quite a few worse than the rope swing that I've been around, and some of them we won't get into. But yeah, it's when you see that, you realize that, oh my goodness, either that could have been me. So when I was a boy, and of course my mother will remember this very well. My sister would too, but she's no longer with us. She passed away recently to cancer, literally a couple of weeks ago. When I was a boy, I loved to hunt. I didn't like the mindset of shooting things, but I loved to be in the woods, right? I love to be in the woods and see wildlife, still do. And we were living in Southern California, and my mother and father, or my mother is from Alabama, my father's from actually Detroit, but spent his whole life in California. And we moved from from Southern California to the Bay Minette area of Alabama. And when we got there, I always looked forward to going hunting with my grandfather, my mother's father, and I was so excited, you know. So one morning, my grandfather woke me up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and the same day, my mother was taking my sister to like a tennis tournament or something from there all the way to Virginia. So they were gonna like drive for 2 days or halfway there or something like that. So my grandfather woke me up, and for some reason that day, I was like, no, I don't want to go. And I was like 9 or 10, and he was old school, tough guy, a military army officer. Anyway, and he was like, come on, boy, you know, get your butt up. Let's go. Only sissies sit here and sleep in. Let's go. And normally I would have just been like, heck yeah, let's go. I would have jumped right up. But this one day I was like, no, I'm going to go with mom. Long story short, I ended up going with my mom, and he huffed and puffed at me all the way out of the door. Man, I'm going hunting. You're a sissy. You're a sissy. Stood my ground for some reason. Even my mom was like, why don't you want to go? It's like your favorite thing when you come here. I was like, I just don't want to go. So we drove all the way to drop my sister off and came back. And on the way back, we pulled into my grandmother's and my grandfather's driveway, and there was ambulances and there was like cars. They were very well known in Bay Minette. They lived there their whole lives, my mother's parents. And what happened is on that day where I would have been in his passenger seat, there's no doubt it was a 2-seater truck. There was only room for 2, and I should have been in the passenger seat. He was leaving the hunting camp and had a heart attack coming out of the hunting camp, and it eased out into the middle of the road right next to a semi, and the semi pulverized the truck. He was already dead before they did the autopsy.
Had a heart attack. Yeah.
Had a heart attack, slumped over the wheel. The semi truck obliterated. There was nothing left of the truck, not much left of himself either, but I should have been in the car. There's no doubt about it. Another time, similar instance, I was in college, and a real good friend of mine, his name was Santos Gennaro Malone II, really good athlete, great guy. And this was long before I knew Carla, but we used to go to the casinos every Wednesday night and, you know, bring like $50, and if we won, we won, we lost. So we were leaving the casino, and I had an apartment, and he was like, man, look at that girl in the swimming pool. Ooh, you know, I bet you won't go holler at that girl. And I'm not that type of guy. Usually I don't go holler at girls left and right, but for some reason I did it. So I got out, went to the pool, and I came back to the car about 10 minutes later, and I was like, I'm going to take her out to dinner tonight. And he was like, what? He was like, man, this is our casino night, bro. We should be going. I was like, man, you told me to do it. Now I got a date. Sorry. Anyway, that night, he got carjacked on the way home. Got shot in the head. They left him with basically nothing but like a lighter in his pocket or something. And I should have been in the passenger seat of that car.
Yeah.
That's God talking.
Yeah, he's telling you to watch out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a tough story. Ying Hao says, greetings all. I guess mine's, well, I did have one intense like that, but for me, another one is, we were, I don't think Priscilla watches the show, but, and my brother wasn't there for that one, but, in New York, we have the Reebok team tryouts, and we have NYJTL. I don't know if Mike Walker has ever heard of it, but this was back in the 90s. I went to go try out for the NYJTL team, which I never made. We were doing tryouts. It's at Bronx. I think the avenue is Hoe Avenue or something, Hoe. Not a good area, but they have nice courts. I think Osaka redid those courts, as a matter of fact. And we were having the tryouts, and they were telling us all warm up and stuff. All of a sudden, we all hear gunshots. And everyone on the floor, you know, I thought that was traumatic. I'm like, oh my God. I don't think I ever went back to the Bronx because of that.
It happens.
I was like, no, because everybody used to tell you, if you live in the boroughs, I lived in Brooklyn. Everyone tells you, be careful when you go to the Bronx. You know, there's nice areas in the Bronx, but be careful. And that was definitely a bad area to go to. I don't think I ever went back after that.
Yeah, some very interesting things that as human beings witness. And I think as you get older and look back upon them, you realize how impactful they are on you. On, I guess, a more upbeat note, one of the most interesting things that has to do with our lives is Carla and I, how we met. And it involved tennis. I think we've mentioned this before. Tennis is again, it's a small world. People tend to know one another even if you've never even met, they've heard about you or something. So Carla was living in Panama City Beach, Florida, and I was living in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was still in the car business. I was a service manager for a long time, 15 years, but I had my coaching certification long ago, and kept up with it, and still taught lessons in the evenings, on the weekends, and so forth. And also, like in the summers, I would fill in at clubs like swim and tennis camps for kids, whatever, because I always have a passion for it. It's not like work. It's just I love to do it, right? So when people are like, "You have to work today," I'm like, "Work," and then I'm like, "Oh, they're speaking about, do we have to teach lessons?" We don't think about it that way. It's what we do. It's our life. Hence why we're here today. But I had a coaching certification, and look, I post a lot of things on social media, but I usually don't go back and check on them. I do it pretty much for positive stuff and tennis and racket string or a podcast. And I got a message one day, and I saw this picture, and I was like, dang, that strong girl, and I love dark eyes and dark skins. I always have. So I saw this, and I'm like, I've seen this girl's picture before, because she was part of some tennis groups, and there was like profile pictures for these tennis groups. So I'd seen the picture before, and then I was like, yes, I've seen this girl's picture before. Man, I wish I had the courage to call her. Hence why I brought up Santos a little while ago, because I didn't. And I still had trouble calling you. But anyway, she sent me a message and said that, hey, she was going through, kind of a career change in life. She was going from one thing to another. And she wanted to get some tutoring or some mentoring on how to prepare for attaining her coaching certification, what to expect as she was approaching her final test, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd been there, done that, and so I said, sure, let's chat. And before you knew it, we were on the phone like 12 hours a day. I would wake up in the morning, if we even slept, and I would call you, blah, 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 blah. And then ultimately we ended up meeting, and here we are now. But we met because of tennis and your goal to become a certified teaching pro. And here you are, you are the co-head pro of Mirror Lake Racket Club, which is very respectable. Mm-hmm. But it started all because of you looking to get your teaching license. Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
So interesting,
yeah,
right?
I remember that. I honestly, I wasn't looking for it. I just messaged you. I messaged a few people, girls and guys, and you answered. So
yeah,
there you go.
So yeah, that's how the story goes.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Who would have known?
Yeah, not Rachel. Okay. Ha ha ha. Nice. Okay, mine is freaky. Mine is like ghosts. Most people laugh when you say, yeah, I've encountered a ghost. They're like, no way. I think I told Justin this story, and he's like, yeah, right. But this was way, way, way before I met him. I think I was like 19 years old. My brother and my stepson were playing video games downstairs. I lived in a duplex. Right on the side actually was a Jewish cemetery. So it was a wall, and then you had the duplex. This was in Florida. This was in Fort Lauderdale. And well, that night, I went to sleep pretty late actually. They were still playing video games. My brother was young, 4 years younger than me. He was staying with me for the week, and my stepson was playing video games with him. So I left them downstairs, went to sleep and everything. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. How I know is because I woke up because there was noise around me. I kept hearing footsteps, and I was I thought it was them. I'm like, shut up, guys, because they're young kids at, 14 years old or 15 years old and a 6, 7-year-old. I'm like, shut up, let me sleep. Woke up to some noise. I wake up, I look at the time on my left. I'm like, all right, it's like 2, 3 in the morning. Then I look at the front door, and I see a little lady in a hat, and I can't see the face, just like shadow, like the hat. And then I see this guy, tall guy, right behind her walking towards me. And I'm trying to scream for my brother, and I can't, like when you get scared, and I got stuck, and I'm trying to scream, and they're approaching me. They're getting closer to the bed. I'm still like sitting up on the bed. They're getting closer and closer. But the freaky part about it is that their faces started becoming not nice, more like a demonic, not something you want to see. It freaked me out that I finally snapped out of it and ran right through. Went downstairs, told my brother, told my stepson. They were laughing at me. They didn't believe me. but I was never able to sleep again with the door closed in that room.
Sounds like a bad dream.
I don't know if it was a dream. I felt like it was so real.
Interesting.
So real. Like, I never want to see that again.
A tangible dream.
Who knows? But I don't know. Maybe there are ghosts. I don't know.
Well, you seem like a pretty positive person to me. Sometimes in the mornings you can be demonic, but...
Demonic, thanks. He went from loving to demonic. No, you don't get it. The face, you felt it was bad. I felt like it was really bad. It was just, it wasn't a good feeling. And the way they were looking at me, it just wasn't, it wasn't good. And I asked the owner of that place, because we were renting it, hey, just curious, anything happened here? And he said, yeah, the girls that used to live here, they had this room painted black, dark black, and they used to do some weird stuff here, and we had to kick them out. I was like,
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's kind of deep.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that, but I don't think you told me the whole story.
Yeah,
That's
they were into deep stuff. So the owners were nice, and he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, you went through that. He actually believed me. He said, but they were into some messed up stuff. We had to kick them out.
Wow.
So I don't know. You know, people do crazy stuff, and what they, I don't know. Yinghao says, I like these kind of stories, Carla. More, please. Ben Frigger says, that's pretty scary. Jesus says, wow, those trapped energies roaming some places.
Yeah.
Yinghao said, very important to have an open mind. I believe you, Carla. Thank you. I really do believe, I really believe that what I was seeing, it was real. Because it just, you know, I felt like something was trying to hold me down. Like, if I wouldn't have gotten up, who knows? You know, I don't know. But, yeah, I never slept. I moved out of there, actually, because of that.
Yeah, you know, the old saying that human beings are naive is nothing new about that. And things such as consciousness, things such as dreams, or things such as seeing UFOs from people that are, you know, credible. You know, why would some random guy just wake up one day and say they saw a UFO? There's been a lot of things that all of us see that no one will ever believe, and ultimately, if you think about how naive we are in terms of dimensions and parallel universes, dark energy, dark matter, quarks, you know, where we're just scratching the surface of a very tip of a huge iceberg, an infinite iceberg. So surely there are a lot of things that we see and we may not be able to understand, or maybe people may not believe, but they can be very real.
Yeah.
All right. Here's an interesting one. The first time I ever met Carla's father. What's up, Nathan? Love him a lot. He's not only my father-in-law, but he's like one of my best friends. Like, we're like brothers of different mothers. So the first time I met Carla, or the first time I met Carla's father, Carla and I hadn't known each other for that long at all, like a couple of weeks. We did know that she was pregnant already. So with it, I met Carla for tennis mentoring.
No, we didn't know I was pregnant.
Well, then
Not when you met me.
Okay, well, you were, but we found out maybe a couple days later, because it would happen really quickly. So my entire life, for the most part, once I grew out of a wooden racket, right? I played with a original Pro Staff 85, right? Not the 6.0 remake, the original ones that were made in, some of them were made in like Portugal or Chicago. You can look them up now. The generation one, the very first, I think, in really good conditions. If you find them made in Puerto Rico or Chicago, I forget what they're called, St. Vincent, something like that, they can fetch $400 or $500. And I had a few of these. So Carla told me her father played with the N code or the K Factor 90, but used to play with a Pro Staff. And I was like, okay, well, I don't swing mine anymore. I'll string one up for him, because I'd cut the strings out. I'll string one up for him, and I'll give it to him as a gift, you know, before I ask him permission to marry your daughter, right? Because that's why I was meeting him. He didn't know it, but that was my goal, you know. I was fixing to say, hey, I'm going to marry your daughter, you know, is that cool type of thing. So we met him at a tennis tournament, and he was playing doubles with his son, Jonathan, and he was playing mixed doubles, or excuse me, her brother, Jonathan, was playing mixed doubles with Carla, okay? So we walk up, and they were just about to go on a court, or they were just about to play, and I said, you know, hey, nice to meet you, Nathan. I brought this racket for you. And he had to kind of run on the court. He was like, cool, thank you, I'll play with it. So I gave him the racket. So within like an hour or so, they ended up losing the match. But right before that, they had lost a point, and he got frustrated. And, you know, obviously he got angry. So he was like, dang, lost. And he smashed the racket. Smash.
Oh, I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my
so
God,
so
that's
here
so
here's this racket. Here's this racket that's, for me, priceless. I played with it through
No.
college. It was original one, the pure original leather grip, and really good condition. Some scratches obviously, and it got punished, just obliterated. He did get me another racket, and looking back upon it, it's and it was kind of funny then as well. Not
No,
really.
I was embarrassed because already,
And I was like, oh man,
already Lily had broken your
window.
your window thing. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, now my dad smashes his racket.
Oh, that's right.
I'm like, I was all the thoughts in my head. I was like, this guy's gonna think that I come from a crazy family.
Yes, you're right, because this I think it was like a day or two before, or
I was like, oh man.
I had a Subaru Forester with a rear wiper, and Lily got the rear wiper and tried to do a pull-up on it and snapped the arm off, and the arm was part of the actual window. And then Jonathan, by the way, had a rock, and Chris and Jonathan were chasing one another. These are my two oldest sons of 5 children. They're two oldest. So Jonathan is chasing Chris, and Jonathan throws a rock and tries to hit him with it. Chris dodges the rock, and it goes through the same window, obliterating the window. So yeah, I got my racket smashed, my window busted out, and my wiper arm broken off within a very short period of time. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Gene Swartz says, I never smashed a racket in my life, otherwise my coach would beat me up if I do so. Yeah, I've never smashed a racket. I think my dad always threatened me if I ever did that. But yet he has smashed many, many, many rackets.
Yeah.
That's, I don't understand that. Ben Friggers, I admit, I hit my racket at times, but I don't smash it. I don't hit my rackets. I can't. I hit myself if I have to, but
yeah.
But actually, I used to do that when I was a kid. Like a junior, I would slap my legs really hard. That's about it. But I've never really, because my racket's like my everything. I always think about it. I'm not rich. I can't just go buy a racket.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to take care. I guess my dad always put that in my head that I have to take care of my weapon. So I've never been able to just even, maybe I've tapped it, but that's about it. And when I tap it, I feel bad.
Yeah, I've released a couple. If I'm really frustrated, and I haven't been in a while, I stopped getting frustrated for the most part when I rupture my patellar tendon. But I have thrown them over fences. I've had them hung in trees before.
Oh, he's yeah. SD Tennis says, never boring with 5 kids. I come from a family with 7 kids.
Let's go, SD.
Yep.
What's up,
Match canceled, Robert. Match canceled.
Yeah,
today.
Brian. Robert's a dear friend, like my best friend, or one of the very few. And he's a good tennis player. He's played tennis for a while, but has gotten much, much better in a short period of time. So great to hear from you.
Jesus says, I actually have a pro staff of 95.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
It's like the one Del Potro played with.
Well, my other story is kind of whacked, kind of nasty.
It's okay.
I was 18 years old. I used to work at a hotel in Fort Lauderdale. I worked in the reservations department and the front desk. And I think I was leaving late at night or something and driving back home. I think I was driving back home. And I stopped at a light and I don't forget it because that's never happened to me. First time and last time it ever happened to me. The guy was like doing like this, and so I put I pushed the button. I had a 93 Mazda MX-6 at that time.
Nice car.
Put my window down, and he's like, hey, you want to have a one-night stand? And I was like, what? I was shocked.
What, MX-6 was a 2-door car? Was it a 2-door car or was it a 4-door?
2-door car.
2-door, yeah, that's what I thought.
I was shocked. I was like, what? He's like, you want to have a one-night stand? He's like, you can follow me. And I just rolled my window up and drove because it creeped me out.
Where was this, New York?
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, Fort Lauderdale.
Florida. People are very, very open, very promiscuous, very...
And how old were you?
19.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 18, not 19 yet. 18. I was shocked. Never happened to me in my life, ever. And it never happened to me again, thank God.
Yeah,
Thank God, because the first thing that came in my head, maybe some people think it's flattering, but I thought, this guy could murder me or something.
Yeah.
It's what came into my head,
Yeah, and I think a lot of us old school people, and I say old school, I know some of you that watch are much older than us, and still I think all human beings were all young at heart. I believe in endless eternal life, just saying. But some of us tend to forget of how different life is now compared to when we were, kids of the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? I was in college in the 90s, so we'll say child of the 80s, late 70s, 80s, whatever. But certain actions that we really have to be damn careful about these days. How you talk to women in the open or behind closed doors, putting your hand on a woman, saying promiscuous type jokes. I'll give you an example. Definitely won't mention any names. It's totally trivial. But how if someone had the right story to tell someone such as a police officer, now that person can get in trouble. A, what Carla was just talking about, but B, sometimes around the game of tennis, we'll meet new people, and Carla's a pretty girl. I mean, just saying, she's very strong. She's built really well. She gets attention and respectable. I take it as a compliment. Love it. It makes me feel good, right? I'm the furthest thing from jealous. Put it that way. If you're hitting on my wife, I'm like, good for you, right? Just saying. So that's a message for all the guys. Never be jealous, because it doesn't work. Just definitely take it as a compliment. But we have had people numerous times at clubs all over the place that'll say, "How are you, Carla?" Put their hand on her, and it's no big deal for us because but we have had people after seeing that, "How did you let that person put his hand on you?" And we're just like, it didn't even register for us, right? And it's like, well, that's our student, or they're a member of the club. Like, what's the problem with that? Well, wow, I wouldn't allow that. You have to be being careful these days about putting your hand on anyone, or saying the wrong things with everybody recording things, and everybody hungry to sue.
The times have changed.
Be damn careful.
In the 90s, guys were very, they said whatever. Like that guy, that he was a young guy, by the way. Young guy, and I remember the car was, I don't know, it was a flashy car. But in my head, because of the way my parents trained me, my mom, I'll give you an example. When I wanted to go dancing at clubs, she would say, "No, you're not going unless I'm going with you." So she would go with me and my friends. And she's like, "Don't take any drinks from any guys. Not even a water bottle, nothing." And my mom always put that in my head. My dad always put in my head, "If you have sex before marriage or in high school, I'm gonna kick your ass."
Well, good for him. So
I always had that in my head, So when I was 18, I've never had someone tell me that. I got freaked out. I thought, this person could follow me. Who knows? You're young. You're in Florida. When we're young, we look our best and we dress sexy and blah, blah, blah. And I did that a lot. I wore tight dresses, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you're 18.
The way it is,
that's just the way it is.
And that's okay.
But I mean, I've been in many situations, and I'll mention another one I have here. When Justin and I were dating, I had a 19-year-old guy. Here I am, a grown woman in my 30s, right? I remember playing tennis. You were supposed to go to Panama City. You know how you used to drive at night.
Whenever you told me that,
Yeah, I was at the tennis court, and this guy, I never thought of anything. I'm a 19-year-old boy. He's a boy. At that point, I'm 30. 19-year-old boy is hitting with Jonathan, and I didn't think no big deal of it. And then he asked me out, and I said, "You're 19. I don't go out with little kids." I said, "I'm with someone." He's like, "That's okay. I've been with older women." And I'm like, "I don't go that way, buddy." But he followed me home. And you were about to get there, and you got there in time.
Yeah.
This is how creepy guys can be. You've got to be very careful.
You do. And ending this aspect of it, we met someone not too terribly long ago here, and a place of a relatively high position, and believe it at that. But one of the first words out of his mouth was a promiscuous joke. "Hey, I used to be a pilot. Do you want to take a ride in my bumpy cabin?" And and I'm just like, we laughed about it, but we looked at each other. We were like, "Really? That person that makes all these just said that to you?" Anyway, you just have to be careful, because you say the thing to the wrong person, and they're gonna do something with it. Yeah. Be careful with that.
Let me say here, Gene Short says, "I remember when I was going to a grocery store, and the cashier, who was a guy, literally slapped this woman customer in the face because she didn't have enough money."
Yeah, awful.
He said, and everyone saw it. I mean, I think if I would have seen that, I would have beat the shit out of the guy.
Do you believe in karma for things like that? Do you believe in karma, meaning the fact if I do something wrong or morally wrong, that whatever you believe in, whatever that higher power is. May haunt you for that, or if you don't believe in any of those higher powers, you just get a run of bad luck because of it. I do. I think karma is a huge factor. Again, hence why I always say be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a tough battle. They are. It doesn't matter how rich you are. Money does not buy happiness, and money can't buy you love. Old Beatles song, right? It just doesn't. Let me tell you a sticky situation or sticky situations that happen now a lot, and they always have, but it was the first time I had an issue with it. You see this a lot in football. You see this a lot, American football. You see it a lot in soccer, European football. You see it in basketball, football. I've heard about it in tennis, but this was the first time it happened to me, and that is two coaches getting in one another's face. So we were at a high school tennis match, right? No names, doesn't matter. We've since made amends for it. But in high school tennis, you can talk to your kids behind the fence. The coaches can talk to kids behind the fence. So for 2 years in a row, we played this certain school, and when his players, I won't get too detailed, but when his players were down 2 years in a row, he would go to the back and stop play, and literally for 5-10 minutes, bring him water, let him sit down, let him totally get the cramps rejuvenated. And anyway, it was going to be the last year of one of my sons playing the school, and 2 years in a row he had been up and kids were cramping, and ultimately to have the match stop for 10 minutes, letting the person rest up, making Jonathan mad, and as well Christopher, he got a year dose of it too. So it started to happen again. They were up, and here come the timeouts. So the entire time, as the match was unfolding, on top of the timeouts, he was huffing and puffing at all his players. How are you? Blah, blah, blah.
So we don't play him this year. I guess he didn't invite us to play this year.
It's all right. Dude was wrong. So he's huffing and puffing. So finally I say, you know what? I'm not a coach. We help with the team, but I'm not the coach. We're not teachers. You have to be a teacher to coach. So I finally started saying things like, let's go. And I went to a different part of the facility as to not make kind of a bad situation worse, because he was already calling timeouts and being an ass. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let's go. Come on, come on. And so I was screaming really loud as to just motivate instead of yelling and make things negative. Mm-hmm. And he comes up, and I'm sitting against the fence, just leaned up against the fence. Come on, let's go. And gets right in my face, smelling like whiskey on his breath, by the way. Anyway, and starts huffing about, you can't say anything. And I'm like, buddy, what have you been doing the past 3 years? And furthermore, what about all your timeouts that you call? And Carla was kind of over there, and the rest of the team, and they heard what was going on. Even some of the parents from that team heard what's going on. And afterwards, all those parents did say thank you for finally. In other words, some of the own players from that team thought the coach was an asshole. One of the players' mom was like, yeah, he should just stick to coaching football. Anyway, but he was yelling at me to do exactly what he was doing. And then I brought up the timeouts the past couple of years. And he got really mad, pointing his finger in my face. And he was like, I didn't do that. Where's my witnesses? Carlos, like, 3 other people were like, and then he walked away.
They were like this. I thought I was gonna have to call the cops.
Yeah, right
like
in my face.
Like this.
And I guess he assumed that he knew me or whatever, and I wasn't gonna stand up for myself. But when he got right in my face, I got closer. Anyway, but it happens. That was the first time, though, I'd ever been in a situation that was close to being hot with another coach that was wrong. Ultimately, we apologized to one another, but that was a really sticky situation over just ridiculousness, right? So what's my most shocking moment about it as a whole? The fact that you can even allow at any level timeouts during a tennis match, right? Medical timeouts, the same thing in the pros when Tsitsipas does these timeouts.
Yeah, it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
And there's a rule for it, whatever. Tennis is meant to replicate a duel, a fight to the death. And I'm sorry, but if you're using the rules as a way to be a sissy, then I just don't like it. Hence why we don't like Tsitsipas, and hence why we don't like things like tiebreakers now in the 5th set, thanks because of Mahut and Isner or Anderson and whoever. Anyway, that's it for that part. What you got?
Well, for me, I guess I was shocked. Shocking, and not in a bad way, but I think I was about 13 years old. I was trying out for the Reebok team. I think I mentioned earlier that I didn't make the NYJTF team. I tried out for the Reebok team. Reebok takes, they take 100 kids in the summer and 50 kids in the winter. So
Heck of a program.
what do they do in New York? You are sponsored by the Reebok brand, right? This was back in the 90s. Shoes, clothes. They pay for your tournaments. They train you. You train at the USTA Tennis Center where the US Open is held. They pay for the transportation, all that stuff. Anyways, my mom took me, my dad wasn't there, he was working, took me to the tryouts, and the coach that was going to give me the test was not other than Richard Williams, Serena's dad. They put, I think, 8 of us in a group like we do for lessons. Ooh, interesting. They put 8 of us in a group. And my mom was sitting there on the side, on the outside courts watching my tryout. I thought I did very well. I beat everyone in the group. So when at the end they tell everybody, all right, we're going to call out the names, they decide the 100 kids, my name was not called. I didn't get picked for the team. But luckily, and I was mad, I was pissed with her dad.
Who, you were pissed with Richard Williams?
Because I beat everybody there. I was way better than all those kids. But luckily, there was a coach next to him that was doing, his test. And he took out someone's name and put my name in it. And thanks to that coach, I was in the Reebok team. No thanks, Richard Williams. Screw you.
So when you...
But I got to see them again many years later with my other coach. Screw you.
Hey, well, some things are destined to happen.
Screw you! Like, how could you not pick me? I kicked everybody's ass. Even the people were like telling my mom, I could hear, "Oh, your daughter's very good," but this girl didn't pick me.
So that didn't change your mind about loving Serena and Venus?
No, because their dad was an asshole. I got to meet him again. When I was 17, 18 years old, my coach used to go to their house. He was arrogant, an arrogant piece of shit.
Wow.
His wife, same thing. Venus, never liked her because of that. Maybe she's changed now. Serena was the only one that was down to earth. I remember when she was playing a match at the Rick Macy Academy. I had to get in the car with her. I needed a ride back, and she offered me a ride, and we got to talking a little bit, and she asked me, where do you go to school, blah, blah, blah. So I got to bump into them several times. But every time I went to their house, their dad was a piece of shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and racist, by the way.
So speaking about Serena just for a moment, I wrote a couple of things. Some of the oddest things that has happened to us on and off, or the most fun thing or interesting, but also some of the things that we have witnessed. One of the most hideous things I've ever witnessed from a watching perspective was when Kim Clijsters and Serena Williams were playing at the US Open. Serena Williams got so upset said she was going to ram the ball down the line judge's or the referee's throat. You remember that?
Yes.
I get she was mad.
Yes.
I get the situation. But having a meltdown like that, and also...
That was a bad meltdown.
And also another time with Serena and Osaka. Look, I'm a Serena fan. She's the GOAT. She's the greatest of all time, without a doubt. Hopefully she gets the record. I don't think she will. But those meltdowns were some of the most hideous and heinous things I've ever seen happen on a tennis court.
That was horrible for tennis, yes. That was definitely I didn't like that when she did that. I was like, man, what the hell? That's not what kids need to see.
It's awful.
You had to tell somebody that you're going to shove a ball down, even though it's funny right now.
Yeah, funny looking back at
it. I can't imagine a human being. It's like almost like Medvedev did to the umpire, talking to him like he's a piece of shit. You don't talk to a human being like they are beneath you.
Yeah.
When they act that way, when Djokovic yells, or all those players yell,
Medvedev,
any of them, when they yell at a lines judge,
McEnroe was awful.
You are telling that human being that they are beneath you, is what you're saying, and that is just completely wrong. It's wrong to do that.
And when people like fans like us watch it that actually have feelings, and actually those feelings go beyond whether or not you like him as a player or not, it's just really bad to watch. McEnroe, awful. Just demeaning and crude. Medvedev, she hit it on the head. When he rolled his eyes at the lady at the Australian Open, when he was getting a second place trophy after the final, and he's like boring. hideous, heinous, ridiculous. To say it any worse than that would be an honor. Just ridiculous, craziness. Um, what was I going to mention? Oh, and a couple other things in terms of a fan watching things that were just epic choking, and in this sense, not really choking. It just didn't happen. I know that we've seen a lot of players come back from down 2-0 in the best of five, but two of them really stood out for me. When Federer was serving for the match at Wimbledon a couple years ago, and Djokovic came back and won it. I'm glad Djokovic won it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of both guys. But that was just when I knew it was over. I knew that Federer wouldn't win another major after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your best tournament, your last bit of health, that your last bit of gas, and you couldn't serve it out. That's when I knew it was over. Also, too, when Del Potro came back and beat Roger Federer at the U.S. Open, and that same year, I think Del Potro won the final, or I think it was the final. I forget, semifinal or final. But that was another shocking thing too.
Let me go back to this.
Yeah,
Wait, Chia says the movie portrayed Richard as someone who's very particular that his children stay humble. I do not see that in Serena though. I can tell you, there's no way that man showed the girls how to be humble. I remember him speaking about other coaches from other races pretty badly. Nick Ballatier was one. For him to, let me tell you his procedure back in the 90s.
Who, Ballatieri?
No, Richard Williams.
Richard Williams?
To go to his house, a reporter, anyone, he would blindfold them so they would not know where they lived. Okay, that's how special he thought. And not only that, like I remember when my coach brought me, he's like, "Who is she and what's her background?" And blah. Like these guys were like the president, and they weren't. And don't have respect for that dude. I mean, Serena never acted like Venus was kind of very stuck. I think she's changed, very stuck up. Like she wouldn't talk to anyone. I think she thought her shit didn't stink, is what I think. I don't think their parents raised them humble. I think they raised them to dominate and crush everyone. I'm sure there was some racism there the other way. I'm sure it was shocking to see that Serena married outside of that. You know, very shocking. But I think she was a little bit different.
Yeah, and bringing all this up in just in a positive way, in a way. Not trying to throw out the negative, but you guys help us answer this question, and I think we brought it up before. At one point, Carla and I went to a club, and we were going to play a mixed doubles match as part of a league type thing, and I walked through the club, walked right on by the teaching pro who was teaching a student at that point in time. Hey, how are you? Walked down to the court. Carla was lagging a little bit behind me. She comes around the club, and I'm out there waiting for her, and I'm like, well, I wonder what's taking her so long. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm hearing, a kind of a loud conversation. Someone's kind of shouting at someone maybe, and I'm like, what the heck, let me go find Carla. So I was ready to warm up, right? We were about to play matches, and I walk back out, and I see someone pointing his finger and chastising Carla. Get out of here. Get out of here. You don't belong here. You're at the wrong place. It was the teaching pro there that saw me, and I'd never seen him before in my life. Hey, come on in. And then here comes Carla walking in by herself and tells her to get out. You don't belong here. She tried to tell him, no, I'm playing a match here. You have to be with a member. She was like, well, my husband just walked by. He was like, I don't care. You don't belong here. How do you answer questions like that? The same type of mindset you were saying. There's some type of bias there, right?
Absolutely.
There's a bias there.
Absolutely.
And it happens a lot.
I've seen it a lot in the tennis world. It's disgusting.
It can be, yes. It can be demeaning.
I think that we all. I've never experienced that in New York though. I think that we were such a melting pot that it didn't matter. I don't remember ever that. Like I could go to any club. Yeah. It was all right.
Exactly.
Cool,
But and why do I even bring that up? I didn't even have that written in here. I brought it up because you were mentioning certain types of things that Richard Williams would do,
it was
and
just
he would
nasty.
come off. Well, the reason why I'm bringing it up though, he was probably doing the blindfolding and stuff as a way to protect his daughters, because again, they were like and still are huge things, and just because of the isms that you have mentioned, he probably did a lot of that to protect because you know how much they have been hated on over the years.
Yes, they have definitely been hated on.
I love them both.
I
Venus Williams is one of my favorite of all time.
I can tell you, I could tell you one time where Serena, you could tell there was definitely something wrong there. She was playing against Jennifer Capriati. I think you guys watched this match. This was before we had any of the new technology of, what do you call the new systems that they
Hawkeye?
Hawkeye and any of that. Serena Williams lost that match because the umpire called all the shots wrong.
Yeah,
wrong.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
And you can go back and watch all the videos.
You can go back and watch that, and they've even brought it out on Tennis Channel. You watch that match. That match was taken away from her. The umpire kept calling. Obviously, there was something. I don't even want to say it, but I've seen them go through their stuff as well. Yeah. We all do. And I could say for Justin's gone through his thing in Montgomery.
Oh,
he probably doesn't want to tell the story, but I will because I don't have a problem telling. We used to play at the courts. What was it? Not O'Connor.
It was it wasn't Vaughn Park, was it?
Vaughn Park.
No, it wasn't Vaughn Park.
It was another one.
It wasn't. It was
another. It was right
park.
by a Catholic school.
Yeah.
There's 4 tennis courts, beautiful courts, and we used to take the kids to hit there. Well, one day him and I were hitting, and Christopher was the only one that was with us.
And there was 2 other empty courts.
And Justin says, "Hey, go serve or do something, buddy. Go hit, whatever." Well, there was this father, African American dad, and his 2 boys, I think, because later on we got to talking and became friends.
Yeah, it worked out.
Who came to the courts, and they kicked off Christopher off the court, even though there was 2 other empty courts.
This gentleman had, not that it should matter, but the gentleman had no idea that was my son. Again, Chris is much, much darker than I. So, yes, we had taken Chris there to practice, and you and I were hitting. Mm-hmm. I simply told Chris, I was like, Chris, grab a couple baskets of balls and go serve on that court. Mm-hmm. There was 2 other courts open to the right. This gentleman walks out, doesn't say anything to us. He goes to my son, who's very Spanish, and says, "Get off the court." Mm-hmm. And I stopped, and I didn't say anything at first. And I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, that's my son. Is there a reason why he has to get off that court? There's 2 courts over here." And he was like, "Man, all you guys are about that."
It's about that,
it's about all
he
that,
goes, "It's about that." And when I heard him say that to him,
what are you talking about?
I said, "It's about what, buddy? You see me?" I said, "What is it about?" I got so mad. I said, "What are you gonna tell him?" He chilled out. I was like, "What are you gonna say? That he's racist? Do you see me? Do you see him?" Yeah. I go.
So ultimately, what ended up happening is we said, "Buddy, my wife is from Honduras, and you can see that my son is definitely not like me."
He chilled out. We became friends.
But yeah, it was fine.
It comes all around. It comes all around, man. It's just me. I don't have tolerance for that. I don't have tolerance for bullshit like that. I don't tolerate bullshit like that. Me, I'm very nice, but when you cross the line, my New York comes out.
Yeah, there's again, there's nothing new underneath the sun. People always are judgmental. They always will be. Hence the old saying, "Never judge a book by its cover." But it's very prevalent, and it's thick everywhere you go. Another abhorrent moment on the tennis court. This one has to do with Nick Kyrgios. When Nick Kyrgios did the water bottle gesture, if all of you don't remember this, I don't even care to bring it up or talk about it. But I thought Nick Kyrgios at that point lost all of my respect completely. Not that I ever respected him anyway, but at that point he was still in that next gen cheesy stuff. You remember how cheesy the next generation stuff was?
That was cheesy.
So such a cheesy thing. He was part of that at that point, and the media is lapping up the fact that he is making a adult-like gesture with the water bottle. And I'm thinking to myself, right behind him in the audience were a bunch of young kids. I mean, little girls, right? And that's when I knew I had seen it all. Also, 2 other hideous things. The way Djokovic was treated at the Australian Open. I get the whole vaccination thing. I get maybe something could have been done differently. But the way it was handled internationally.
It was bad.
Generally court stuff is generally private, but they made a mockery of the whole situation. Same thing with the ball lady at the U.S. Open. She got hit with a ball and causes it just creates an international.
Djokovic, he's like us.
Yeah,
everything that can follow you follows you.
Poor dude.
I can relate with him. I can definitely relate with him.
Man, it's like Carla and I are always. There's always some type of drama that we don't ask for, right? It's like you name it. It's just like we're good targets for it. But then I think people realize when they target us for it, they were like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," because we definitely don't take. I mean, we're professional about whatever it is, but we're not gonna say okay if we're getting bent over, if you know what I mean, right? Another crazy thing, and this one we've talked about before. We were at a tennis tournament and we had 4 or 5 students playing. The matches hadn't even started yet, and I had someone basically hiding in a tree come over and tell me that there was no coaching from the sidelines, even though I was just telling. Now this is right when COVID started. They had dots on the balls, so they hadn't even got their marked balls from the fence yet. And so I was walking down and I just said, "Hey, have a good match." And this person was like, "You can't coach from the sidelines." I'm like, "What are you talking about? The match hadn't even started yet." Anyway, but that's just the nature of the beast. There's someone always trying to cause problems, and we tend to see a lot of that, whether we're involved with it or whether not. But I can assure you, we are very honest, and I can assure you that when drama comes our way, we can be truthful in reality because we tell the truth.
Yeah, I don't think people like that about us because
we're just gonna tell you the truth.
Tell you how it is.
Yeah.
Tell you how it is, and that's it.
Yes.
There's no sugarcoating it from us.
Yeah, and how about times where parents get in your face?
So, yeah, we've had that too.
Oh yeah. The problem is when you start coaching more experienced players, let's say intermediate juniors, advanced juniors, young college players.
The parents think they know it all.
I always like to use high school football as an example. The parents will yell at the coaches in midget ball or pee-wee ball or park ball or even middle school ball. But at the high school point, that's where coaches stop listening to mommy and daddy. They got a team to win. They got a match to win. They're not interested in what you have to say. And generally, parents that are doing that, most of them have no idea really what they're talking about anyway. But when parents come down and start telling you like how you should train their kids better, when it's things like totally outlandish stuff like makes no sense, it just goes to show you that coaches really get it from all different perspectives. It really sucks having a parent in your ear if it's negative. When they're like borderline college. It's like, wait a minute, this person must be let to be themselves. Then why are we even here in the first place? Oh, and then come to find out they've been through like 7 other coaches for the same reasons.
But my thing with tennis is most parents are too scared to go to the football coach and tell him something because they know what's going to happen.
Oh,
your son's going to get kicked out of the team, right? But I noticed that in tennis, a lot of parents do that in tennis. They feel like they can give their 2 cents.
Yeah, we don't take 2 cents.
The thing is,
is
your kid taking tennis lessons? If you can get him better, then you do it. My dad trained me in tennis, but he knew that he couldn't do everything, so he hired coaches for me. What makes you think that you would know more than somebody that's experienced?
Yeah, or what?
I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be there. The worst to me is when a parent comes and tells me that don't touch this, don't touch that.
I hate that.
I'm like, then why are you here?
Yeah.
I'm not here to kiss your ass.
No, we don't say that obviously, but it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a lesson, but it's just it's the thing where I get why a lot of parents do say that because they've been through 3 or 4 coaches and nothing's changed. Sometimes though, the parent has to look at themselves like, wait a minute. I mean, sometimes a parent can be so bad that you don't even want to teach their kids anymore. That's only happened to us, I think, like once, and we love it never was terminated. But I know so many people, especially at the club level, especially some of the more green coaches, some of the younger ones. They talk about themselves all the time. They talk about how great they've done this, they've done that, and how overrated they are as a tennis player or whatever.
I've seen it all.
And then a parent calls them out on it, and it just makes a situation rough. But it's hard to maintain composure in a sense if anyone and anything that you do is yelling at you, especially for the wrong reasons or for no reason at all.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing to handle.
By the way, I did get your message, Gene. I saw that Novak is getting vaccinated. He has no choice. I mean, he just saw Nadal get 21. He has no choice. I mean, he's not going to win the war with that. I mean, he was, in my opinion, wrong decision that he made at the Australian. I mean, that's not a stand. he can't. He's not going to win that war. He's just not. You know, you got to do what you got to do, and that's it. Unfortunately, that's how it is. You know.
Yeah, and it's a hocus pocus situation. But I think if he wants to go ahead and get that 21, or I think at this point he's going to need 22 to tie. I don't see Nadal losing the French Open. I just don't. I get it. It just happened as well last time. But I think that he's the one to beat. Novak being the second one. He doesn't need to let him cruise to that. He needs to potentially be there, and I think he'll do what he has to do. But I think 22 is going to be the number.
Yeah.
And he can, and Djokovic can do that. He can do it. He can win Wimbledon. He can win the U.S.
I don't think he'll win French Open. I agree with you. I think that the 21 has given life to Nadal.
Yes.
And he is going to go after his French, his baby.
Yeah.
And yes, Novak beat him, but it's tough to beat the maestro on clay.
And he just did it on hard. Granted, Djokovic wasn't there.
You know, so I think it's going to be tough. I think that he needs to do what he's got to do.
Yeah.
If he wants to be the best, the GOAT, you know.
Yeah.
And I know he does because he's got that type of personality. Let me go back to one more that I think.
Go for it.
The USTA implementing red, orange, and green balls with a dot.
Yeah. the green dot balls are okay.
Worst thing that they could have ever created, because it dumbed down tennis. Not only that, it was proven, because our kids play tournaments, that none of these tournaments with orange balls, red or green dot, could fill up.
People stopped signing up for them.
They stopped signing up for them.
And she's talking about the 10 and under tennis program. That's where, you know, for the little guys, tiny tots, they use actually a sponge ball. The next is a red ball that's bigger. I think it's got 36 psi of compression. No, it's for a 36-foot court. Then you have an orange ball that's for a little bit bigger of a court. And then you ultimately have the green dot ball, which people up to 12 years old use that. And then,
that's crazy.
And then they had the regular balls. The thing is
making the court smaller.
Carla and I, and we're speaking from ourselves here, as well as millions of tennis players globally that grew up in our generation and still going now. We never had a foamy ball. And the problem is, and we have coached the programs, we have set up the courts, we have thrown the tournaments, we have run the tournaments. The problem is that ultimately you have to learn to hit the regular ball in the first place. And hitting this slow-moving, big foamy thing, I get it. It helps hand-eye coordination.
But go play on clay. Go play on clay for that. Go take a lesson on clay then.
The purpose is to get an easier way to train in the hand-eye coordination.
They can do that on clay.
I understand that, but if you go ahead and just start with the regular ball, toss it to them, catch it, do some ups and downs. Yes, it starts with one. Okay, next week if you come back, I'll give you a pack of Pokemon cards if you can do 10.
We have a 4-year-old that hits the ball over with a green ball.
Our 6-year-old, if you go to the playlist on our channel, by the way, if you think this is the only thing that we make videos for, there's a ton of playlists out there. One of the things I forgot to mention that we went through that was really tough, we've been through a lot of hurricanes, but Hurricane Sally destroyed our house, and we lived, God bless the church for allowing us to do so, but we lived in a room without a window for like what?
6-7 months.
7 months. We did a video on that. That was the most popular video I ever did. It had like what 200,000 views on it when the hurricane was blowing the house down. Check that out. It's on a playlist, weather updates, and it's got like 200 videos on it. But our most popular video ever was like somewhere around 200,000, I think, and it was Hurricane Sally is pounding our house. Anyway. But Hurricane Sally was one of those events. I forgot what I was mentioning. What was I talking about?
We were talking about the red, orange.
Oh yeah. So if you just start them with the ball at hand that you're going to use, eventually they grow into that, and you don't have to seemingly start all the way back over. But I agree with you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, next thing.
A couple other things, and then I'll be done with ours. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to, in comments, if you're watching this after the fact, after it's stopped, put some stories in there. I'll read them as shout outs next show. So I'd love to read some of them, and again, I'll read out your name and so forth on the next show. 2 other things. Carla and I have had a stringing business, a racket stringing business for a long time, right? A long time, long before we moved here. We had it in Montgomery. I had it in Vermont. I moved here to Mobile, and I kept moving around a big Babolat Star 5 stringing machine. It's like, you know, $5,000-$6,000 machine. I think it was like 8 at that point. But anyway, it's a long time ago. So I was like, Carla, I'd rather have a machine, you know, a top-notch machine that I can add an electronic tension head to, or I can put the manual tension head on and bring it back and forth and not worry about the tension head, the manual one, if it, you know, gets damaged, because I have the electronic one. So I told Carla I would just sell the Babolat Star 5. So I sold the Babolat Star 5 and kind of got out of stringing, and then I realized that was stupid, because I kept having to drive an hour to drop a racket off to get strung. It never was done very well. I mean, it was sometimes, but you know, the knot sometimes would be off. I knew one guy there was a beast. He strung really well, but it wasn't always him that would get it, so I would have to request him. Anyway, long story short, is I had a brand new racket I bought. It was a brand new Babolat Pure Aero. It was like a 2018 model or something, just out of the plastic, and I brought it there to get strung. And no need for locations, whatever, but I don't even think shop exists anymore. It might. But I dropped it off to get strung. I got it back. I came home. Went on the court with Carla, and the first ball I hit was a serve. I just walked out on the court, and I just grabbed the ball, and that's how I was going to tell how it played. I just threw up a serve, hit the first ball. Boom, my racket, don't worry about it. My racket imploded. It like cracked inwards. The string had pulled the... Anyway, so either two things happened. Either A, there was a little stress crack in the racket, for some reason that I never picked up. It was new in the plastic. I dropped it off, strung, and that imploded it, but I know that's not the case. It wasn't cracked. It was still in the bubbles. So obviously what happened, it was either strung way too tight, or somehow it was cracked at the location. So I brought the racket back up there, and I wasn't even going to ask for another racket. I was just showing them. I said, hey, you know, I just picked this up. I hit one ball with it, and look at the head. It's imploded. Immediately, this person grabbed my racket and says, I know we didn't do this. Get out. Take your stuff. I was like shocked. I was like, where did this come from? I don't even know who this person is. I'm just... So anyway, what did I do? And this is how it worked out positively. I'm like, geez, if they only knew that I won't get it because I don't want to say any locations or anything. However, where am I going with this? That event caused us to open back up the string business, and we have been more busy than ever. Mm-hmm. But even people you don't know, even people you have no idea who they are, they will these days, and I don't remember it being so frequent, come right out of the bat and tell you to get lost, right? Mm-hmm. You can't even tell someone that you messed something up without worrying about them maybe throwing you out. So it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right?
I agree.
All right. The last two things I have is Carla and I always like to talk about times you've been like hit really hard with a tennis ball. Okay.
I hit a little 6-year-old. I was, oh man.
Either you hit them or you get hit yourself.
Oh, I didn't hit her hard, but she was crying for the rest of the lesson.
How'd it happen?
She was volleying, and literally I was tossing the ball like really slow, and it still hit her in the face, and she started crying, and she didn't want to hit another ball. And I'm not that good with like stuff like that.
It's okay.
I can't, because I'm the type of mom that says, snap out of it, move on, because that's how I was raised. But I'm like,
yeah.
Oh no, I was like, I had to go into like mommy mode.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Fake mommy mode.
And you know, and it happened to the sweetest little girl. What was her name?
Anna Claire.
Anna Claire.
And it hit her right in the forehead and left a little bump. And I was trying to tell her, it's okay. We all get hit with tennis balls, but guess what? That doesn't stop you. Now you won't be scared.
It made my heart melt because I was teaching a lesson on the other court. So we were both. She had one court going. I had the other court going. And I didn't see it happen, and I know Carla was doing it really lightly at the net.
Very lightly.
But she's this little girl. She's so cute.
She hugs me.
She hugs us when she comes, and it like makes your day, right? And then to see her crying, and then I saw Carla. Carla usually like, man, shake that off, forget about it, But she went up and she consoled the young lady. Carla, what about the time where yourself and your brother, your dad and I were playing? I was on the umpire chair. I think Jonathan was playing, or Christopher. Her brother Jonathan is an excellent tennis player, very good to say the least. Really powerful ground stroke. So Carla was sitting playing doubles at the net, and was he serving or was that a forehand?
No, he hit a forehand.
Okay, so
I was at the net.
Carla wasn't. I mean, I was sitting in the umpire chair up high, and she's down there playing. So she probably wasn't totally focused. I think it was.
No, I knew it was coming to me.
Okay, so,
I
but
saw him.
there's nothing you can
There was
do.
nothing I could do. I saw him winding up. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
hit me right in the thigh.
Yeah, he hit like a James Blake forehand, like, I mean, incredible pace. And it hit Carla right in the thigh, like right in the front of the leg. She had a perfect round bruise, and she doesn't bruise very well. She's got super strong legs. She had a perfect round bruise that you could see the line imprint on the tennis ball right on her leg.
Woo, that was hard.
It was okay. Last one I got is
Well, you won the face. What about
with
you?
Chris.
Oh, I got hit in the jaw with Chris too. Christopher hit me in the jaw. I felt like he broke my jaw.
How did it go down?
Well, I was feeding him, training him, and you were with Lily.
Yeah.
And so then I turned and told you something, and I guess I fed him a ball, and I didn't think he was gonna come right at me. He hit me right in the face, and I felt like my jaw moved, and I couldn't talk. I was like,
yeah.
And what about you? He hit you right.
Yeah, and the same student. This is one of our children, one of our 5 kids. So I was working on stroke production with Chris. I was on the same side of the court with him. This was earlier on in his learning process, but I was watching his feet, his grip, and whether or not he was recovering without stumbling too far off in one direction. So I'm right in his face, or right here. So I was hand tossing balls out, and he would go and he would hit the ball and come back right in front of me. So there's not much margin of error there for an errant ball, but this wasn't really an errant ball. It was a good toss. So I tossed the ball, and Chris at that point was kind of being a dick, you know.
Oh man, that kid has been the most headache. I don't
Yeah,
know.
He can be, you know, he can.
That kid,
He can get, you know, like any other kid, but
I'm gonna celebrate when he goes.
So I fed the ball, and Chris tees off on a forehand, like wound up, lets the racket head fall, complete solid whip, came right around, and we were playing down the line. He decided to hit one cross court, so I turned, and all I saw was his racket this close to my face, and then the ball come off of it, hit me right in the eye. And I was wearing glasses, so I wear contacts, but I had my regular prescription glasses on that day. Shattered my glasses, broke the lens, and put a cut straight down my nose, blood running down my face. Yeah, it sucks to get whacked with the ball.
It definitely does. But I mean, you shouldn't be scared of a tennis ball.
Should not be scared.
I mean, my first lesson was with a wooden racket, and the guy was aiming balls at me. I mean, but I lost the fear of a ball. I'm not scared. I'll even go to you. Like if you're at the I'll go to you. I dare you to hit me.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not. I've had students hit me before many times. I think Alina hit you right in your.
Yeah.
You went down.
Yeah.
And she started laughing. So I mean, it happens.
One of those things. Lastly, one of the most odd things I've ever seen is our oldest son, Jonathan, who is now at the.
Are we lagging? No. Okay.
Who is now at the United States?
Oh, that was tough. Yeah.
Who is now at the United States Air Force Academy in his second year. Double faulted 21 times during a match. During the match that he didn't want to play, he was aggravated before walking onto the court. Double faulted 21 times. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Needless to say, he got a good lecture when he got off the court.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right, guys, that's it. Adios. Don't forget to subscribe. Much love, and hopefully we are back on the court, sunshine tomorrow. I know we will. It's supposed to stop raining this afternoon. Clear out. Our high school matches were canceled, so remember that. But tomorrow we must. For those of you here in this area that are going to be tomorrow with the club, we have to be there really early. So
no, he lost. Michael Walker. He lost the match.
Who?
The 21 double faults.
Oh yes, he lost that match.
It was. I walked away.
Yeah,
I couldn't take it.
He lost.
I was like, underhand serve. I kept yelling, underhand serve, for the love of God. I said.
Do you know what? This actually should have been the #1 odd thing, and I didn't even write it, and I wouldn't have even held on to say it if Mike Walker just wouldn't ask a question to flip my script from the ending. Probably one of the most odd things I've ever seen, if not the most odd thing. Jonathan, speaking of Jonathan, the one that, yes, double faulted 21 times, he was at a sectional state tennis tournament, okay? And he was playing this kid that he could never beat. This kid beat him every time.
And what an awful game. Yeah, got it.
Ugly game, you know, sometimes you play down to someone else's level if they're, you know, beneath you. Anyway, but he never could beat the kid, right? So Jonathan was about to lose again, and this was his senior year. He was a senior.
No,
it was a
junior,
sophomore
junior.
or junior.
Yeah, they didn't get to play senior year.
So you know how when you're playing a match and you're using 3 balls or whatever, and that's all you have, and you need a ball, like, you know, so you're serving, you only have 1 ball, and the person over there's, you know, got them both over there, and you're like, hey, you know, can you throw me a ball? Okay, so this happened to Jonathan. Jonathan was losing. He was bent out of shape. He was pissed off. I kept trying to tell him, chill, dude. He was already making a mess just with the sportsmanship, and I hate bad sportsmanship, so I was pissed already just watching it unfold. I was about to pull him off the court. Seriously, I'll pull one of my kids off the court if they're acting like an idiot. I will. I'll say, you're done, stop. I'll stop the match. Been there, done that. We'll do it. Her dad's done it too. I've seen your dad do it, or wanting to do it. Jonathan was being a dick and wasn't getting the ball for the kid. He knew to get it. It was right behind him at the fence, and the kid's standing there with one ball serving. And he's like, hey, the kid's like, hey, Jonathan, can you toss me a ball, please? They're both behind you. Jonathan turns around and gets both balls, picks up one and whams it, wham, right at him. And then
he ducked.
And the kid ducked. He's like, oh shit. And then Jonathan gets the second ball. Here you go, wham, and whams it right at him. He ducks again. Yeah, that was a really shitty moment. Reminded me of the Djokovic incident with the ball lady. But that, Jonathan. I still get aggravated about.
He can't have it all. No, he's got the good looks. He's smart, but some reason at the tennis court,
meltdown.
He couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. So after the match, and the kid's a fine young man. I saw him again not terribly long ago at a tournament. We saw him. We were like, "What's up?" Yeah, we love the kid. Jonathan obviously didn't. So we
yeah, I told him about him. He's like, "Oh, that kid."
Yeah. So he's walking off the court. This is after that match, and I walked up. Obviously, Jonathan went the other way, acting like an idiot. So I walk up to the kid, Tahir. That's his name, Tahir. And he's a really good kid, really awesome kid. I was like, man, I'm so sorry for that. I was like, you beat him every time, and he thinks he should win, and he just gets bent out of shape. And he was like, man, it's totally cool. But this is what the funny thing, that was so mature of him to say. He was like, I can tell you one thing, though. No one wants to play with him. And then kept on walking, right?
Oh, Jonathan, man. Our kids are special.
All right. Day in the life of 5K tennis.
Oh, we could go on forever.
We can go on forever.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. We will see you very, very, very soon. Don't forget, we will be doing the $500 cash competition for Roland Garros. We will be doing two $50 winners for the fantasy teams for Roland Garros. The only thing that you need to qualify is just to subscribe before the tournament starts. I don't like giving out stuff to people that have been subscribed for 1 minute simply because they just heard about it when the tournament started. I'd rather give them out to those that have kind of been family.
And let's go, Rafa, to all you Djokovic lovers. Are you guys crying? Tears.
Let's go, Novak. Let's go. Love you.
You guys need to go right. Dear Djokovic, please get vaccinated so you can play and not torture us. Thank you. Sincerely, your fans.
Much love. See you guys.
Bye.